across a number of various sectors in publishing, including schools, academic, trade, B2B. How have you found that these sectors have been different, and what are the challenges and opportunities that come with each different role?
Yeah, I've enjoyed over the course of my career working in those different sectors. I started out teaching English in Morocco, but then I started out as a desk editor in Germany in a school book publishing company. So I learned the discipline of publishing for curriculum needs and classroom needs, and going into classrooms and seeing what teachers and pupils were doing. And I've enjoyed over the years finding how you apply the creative publishing skills and the technical publishing skills to a different audience. So from schools to academic, where you've got a global audience, you're not constrained by curriculum, you can do all sorts of other things. And then trade publishing, finding an audience, typically for information and learning in my case, but with a consumer focus. And on to B2B. I'm chairman of a B2B publishing company in the textiles industry, and that's quite specific, quite detailed. So I encourage people coming into publishing not to stay in one box, but to look for other opportunities and what might be related but different, and how can they learn new skills and add to their portfolio. And I've tried to do that over the years.
You've mentioned that you've worked internationally. How has this shaped your approach to leadership and business?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, I mean, I worked in Morocco, I worked in Germany for 3 years. I later worked in the Netherlands. I worked in Sweden for 3 years, and I've often been to and from the United States. And I mean, I'm a linguist by background. That was my original degree. And so I love learning languages, but I also love learning a different working culture and being plunged in typically to take some kind of leadership or to help a company move forwards, and doing it whilst at the same time figuring out how it works and what people's motivations are and what the structures are in which they operate. So, for instance, in Sweden, it was a Wolters Kluwer company. I was brought in, and it was a very sizable educational and legal publishing business, and it needed some new ideas and so on. And one of the things there is that you've got very high union membership and union involvement in decision making. So as a manager, you have to learn the processes of consulting with the unions, reaching an agreement, going forward, and so on. And I think that was a positive process that probably led to better decisions. In other circumstances, you have to act more quickly or whatever. But that business of learning the language, learning the way, what makes people tick and what makes the organization tick is fascinating, I think. Of course, in those pre-Brexit days, I moved to Germany, I moved to Sweden without a second thought, and could just, register locally, but then work without any difficulty. There are more challenges in Europe these days for young people, but there are schemes and sponsorships available, and in other parts of the world. And I encourage people, again, as they're building their career, to think beyond the borders of this country, and look for opportunities elsewhere.
Do you have any tips for publishers on how they can become more environmentally friendly in their production lines, or in their companies themselves?
Well, I started a business called Zero Carbon Academy, and we've been working with the publishing industry and in various other sectors as well. And we worked with the IPG to help produce the IPG Zero Carbon Toolkit. So I would certainly encourage people to look at that, and the associated resources. And I do think the IPG is very strong on this. The Book Journey project is one that's been running for some time, about reducing waste and reducing environmental impact throughout the development of a title and its longer life time returns have been a plague of our industry for a long time, and moving things around. So yeah, there are a number of good resources. I mentioned the IPG first, of course, but the Publishers Association also has good resources on how to reduce your carbon impact in this industry. And it's something that I think a lot of people are taking seriously. People want to do the right thing, but finding the specific steps. Often you've got a busy publishing program, you're working through book after book, but changing your practice so that you have less of an impact on the environment is something that needs to be done.
And can you tell me a bit more about the Stationers Company and what role you have there?
Yes, well, for most of my career, I was frankly unaware of the Stationers Company, but then I was invited along a decade ago, and it's a livery company in the City of London. It's over 600 years old, so it was formed in 1403 by when the writers and illuminators who worked around St Paul's Cathedral wanted to protect their revenues, no doubt, and so on, and they formed a guild, later given a royal charter, and it's been there as a network of people in publishing, printing, journalism, packaging, associated trades, for 600 years, doing its thing, which is both charitable work on the one hand, industry events, industry networks, and educational programs, helping to support a school. And I've found it a stimulating environment with a touch of difference. I've been very involved with, as you gathered, with publishing industry associations over the years, but this has a slightly broader feel to it, and that historical legacy. It's where copyright started. You had to go to Stationers' Hall and write in the register your claim over a book, and we still have the register that has Shakespeare's first folio in it, and it's been there in the archive ever since. So it's a fascinating mix. Yeah.